I have exited Discovery. I'm a free agent. What?
After years of rumors, Richard Rawlings is finally coming clean. The Fast and Loud star admits he's been hiding a dark secret that explains everything. Why his marriages failed, why he suddenly sold his car collection, and why Discovery really canceled his show. At 55, he's finally ready to tell the truth about what happened in that $6 million legal battle. And trust us, it's way worse than anyone imagined. Richard Rawlings was born on March 30, 1969 in a working-class neighborhood in Fort Worth, Texas. Long before he became a TV personality and automotive mogul, his world already revolved around cars. One of the earliest photos of him shows a small boy sitting proudly in a pedal-powered Volkswagen Beetle. It wasn't just a toy. It was a glimpse of what was coming. While most kids were watching cartoons on Saturday mornings, Richard had a different routine. At 3 o'clock in the morning, when most of the city was still asleep, he'd get up and head out with his dad to deliver newspapers. They'd roll up stacks, drive through dark neighborhoods, and toss papers onto driveways. After school, Richard did the same thing again for the afternoon edition. On weekends, he'd ride his bike from house to house collecting payments. What really stood out during those rounds wasn't just the money. It was the cars. He started noticing every single one. He knew which house had what make, what model, what year. Some customers were surprised by how much he knew. His answer was always simple. I ride by your house twice a day, most days of the week. How wouldn't I know what's in your driveway? His father, who worked 2 or sometimes 3 jobs, always made sure he had one thing for himself, a car or a motorcycle. That single toy was his reward. And that lesson stuck. Richard watched and learned if you wanted something special, you had to earn it. By the time he was 14, Richard bought his first car. It was 1983. The car was a green 1974 Mercury Comet. He paid for it with money he'd saved from years of newspaper routes. Most kids were dreaming about turning 16. Richard was already driving. Well, not legally, but that didn't stop him. That Comet wasn't just a ride. It was a statement. At school, he'd burn rubber in the parking lot doing donuts just to show what it could do. His classmates still talk about it. Despite the ugly green color, he thought it was the coolest car ever made. Things moved fast after that. By senior year in 1987, he was already on his third car. This time it was a black 1977 Bandit Trans AM. It looked like something straight out of Smokey and the Bandit, and it made him the go-to car guy at Eastern Hills High School. But it wasn't just about showing off. He was flipping cars, too. Buying, fixing, selling. Before graduation, he had already flipped around 20 different vehicles. He made more doing that than most teens earned with part-time jobs. And he wasn't guessing. He had an eye for spotting deals, improving them just enough, and convincing people to pay more than he did. It was the foundation of everything that came later. In the early 90s, when he was just 22, Rawlings faced something much more serious. He was driving a 1965 Ford Mustang 2+2 Fastback, a classic muscle car with the kind of roofline collectors dream about. One night, while cruising through a rough area near Oakland Boulevard in Fort Worth, he was ambushed by carjackers. They tried to pull him out of the driver's seat. Richard fought back. In the struggle, a bullet ripped through his shoulder and traveled down his left arm. He survived. He could have walked away from car culture forever. Instead, it only made him more determined. Between 1988 and 1990, before the tattoos, the fame, or the garage, Richard wore 3 uniforms. He worked as a police officer, a firefighter, and a paramedic. All before turning 21. His dad always said, "You get a good job with benefits, stay loyal, and retire with a gold watch." Richard listened, at least at first. It all changed in 1988 when he was delivering Miller Lite to a local bar. One of the regulars, who he thought was just another drunk, asked him what he planned to do with his life. Richard mentioned law enforcement, but said he couldn't afford to go to the academy. The man looked at him and said, "Damn it, I'm the mayor of So-and-so City." Within 17 days, Richard was enrolled at the North Texas Police Academy. He served in Alvarado as a cop. Then he became a firefighter in Capel. He wore multiple hats and learned how to stay calm when things fell apart. Those crisis management skills would later help him in business. But by 25, He needed a change. He sold everything he owned and bought a Jeep. He took off for California, hoping to start something new. Back then, he was clean-cut. No tattoos, no piercings. 6 months later, he came back to Texas broke with tattoos, pierced ears, and no Jeep. It had been repossessed. He was sleeping on his sister's couch. That low point didn't break him. It focused him. He needed to start something of his own. And that's when he launched Lincoln Press in 1999. It was a printing and advertising company in Dallas. He had no background in printing, but he understood branding. He took out a $100,000 small business loan to get started. Within 5 years, Lincoln Press was booming. In 2004, he offered a Lamborghini Gallardo to the first client who spent $1 million with the company. That stunt worked. The company kept growing. Eventually, he sold it. That sale gave him the money he needed to chase his real dream, cars. When Richard Rawlings launched Gas Monkey Garage in Dallas back in 2002, things didn't exactly take off. The shop was small. It didn't even have running water or air conditioning, and it was built using money from the sale of his earlier business, Lincoln Press. It was a rough start. Rawlings had the passion. When Fast and Loud first aired on June 6, 2012, nobody knew it would turn a Dallas garage into a global brand. At the center of it all was Richard Rawlings. Before the cameras showed up, he was just a guy running Gas Monkey Garage. After the show took off, he became a face recognized in over 200 countries. It wasn't just a hit in the U.S. The show was translated into 13 languages. That level of reach turned Rawlings into a major player in the entertainment world almost overnight. The concept was simple but powerful. Rawlings and his team searched for forgotten classic cars. Most were beat up or barely running. They brought the cars back to life, made them shine, then sold them for profit. But what made the show stand out was its tone. While other shows leaned into heavy drama or targeted niche audiences, Fast and Loud aimed wide. Rawlings described it as something both kids and grandparents could enjoy. He didn't want to make just another car show. He wanted it to be fun and fast-moving, and he wanted everyone to feel welcome watching it. The strategy worked. Viewers got hooked on the cars, the builds, and the energy. But the real turning point came when Rawlings used that success to expand far beyond TV. He launched Gas Monkey restaurants, clothing lines, energy drinks, tequila, vodka, and more. The garage was still there, but now it was the foundation for something much bigger. By 2020, Rawlings had built an entire empire. Even though the show ended on June 8, 2020 after 16 seasons and 155 episodes, the brand was stronger than ever. The reason for the show's success came down to what Rawlings called his cash money formula. It was all about buying smart and selling smarter. He would travel across the country, find classic cars in rough shape, then use hard negotiation and quick cash to close deals fast. Sometimes he carried thousands of dollars with him just to get a seller to say yes on the spot. He once said, "You can always buy a $10,000 car for $5,000 if you've got it in your pocket." That line wasn't just good TV. It was his real-life strategy, and it worked. One of the best examples of the formula in action was a Dodge Challenger build. Rawlings bought it for just over $40,000. The team poured $77,000 into the restoration, adding unique upgrades and features. When the car sold, it went for $150,000. That was a profit of $73,000 on a single flip. It wasn't just luck. It was the result of sharp instincts, smart spending, and a deep understanding of what buyers wanted. What also set Fast and Loud apart was Rawlings's willingness to take risks. He often bought vehicles most people wouldn't touch. Rust buckets, frame damage, cars that looked like they'd been forgotten for decades. Even his own team sometimes questioned his decisions. But Rawlings could see potential that others missed. One time he bought a supercar for $400,000. It had serious mechanical issues after a failure with the previous owner. Still, Gas Monkey Garage turned it around. After the rebuild, the car sold for a major profit. That kind of high-stakes gamble became part of the show's identity. These rusted-out cars weren't just about money. They brought drama and depth to the show. Each car had a story. Each restoration had problems to solve. Viewers got to see how much time, money, and effort went into the transformations. Some builds didn't go as planned. Some took longer than expected. Not every car made a profit. But that was part of the appeal. It showed the risk behind the reward and gave people a real look at the business side of car restoration. Over time, Fast and Loud became one of Discovery Channel's most successful reality shows. It ran from June 2012 to June 2020. That's 8 full years of builds, flips, and wild road trips. By season 4, the show had hit its stride. That season brought in tight deadlines, unexpected problems, and last-minute repairs that added tension. Viewers never knew if the team would finish a car on time or if the deal would fall through. That mix of pressure and payoff kept people watching. But in 2020, Rawlings made a big decision on the Joe Rogan Experience. He revealed that he had ended his partnership with Discovery. The reason came down to control. He wanted more creative freedom and didn't want to be locked into contracts that limited what he could do next. Leaving the network was a risk, but it also opened new doors. Since then, Rawlings has continued to build his brand through YouTube, new media projects, and the ongoing success of Gas Monkey Garage. Richard Rawlings had already built a name for himself in the automotive world. But in 2013, he decided to take his brand beyond cars and engines. That year, in September, he launched the first Gas Monkey Bar and Grill in Northwest Dallas. It was built on the site of the old Firewater Bar and Grill and covered 19,000 square feet. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was part music venue, part bar, and all attitude. The place could hold up to 1,200 people, and Rawlings made sure to bring in real experience to run it. He hired Alex Mendanza, who had managed the House of Blues in Las Vegas, to lead the operation as general manager. David Hollister came in as the culinary manager to shape the food side of things. The venue didn't just open quietly, either. 2 days before the official launch, the American rock band Old 97s played the very first live show there. The place had style and energy right from the start. By March 2014, Rawlings was ready to go bigger. He opened a second Gas Monkey Bar and Grill. This time at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport in Terminal D. It was a smart move. Travelers passing through one of the busiest airports in the country now had a place to grab food, hear some music, and get a taste of the Gas Monkey brand. Rawlings even spoke about wanting a third location outside the Dallas-Fort Worth area. He wasn't just experimenting. He was building something. The bar and grill became more than a restaurant. It turned into a hot spot where car culture, music, and nightlife came together. Later that same year, in October 2014, Rawlings took things up a notch. Right across the street from the original bar and grill, he opened Gas Monkey Live. It was massive, 38,000 square feet with room for 3,000 guests. Before Rawlings got. Then came Katerina Dyson. Her name made headlines for another reason. She had previously been married to Darwin Dyson, a Texas billionaire who sold his company Affiliated Computer Services to Xerox for $6 billion. Katerina had spent years in that world. Private jets, superyachts like Apogee, and a lifestyle built around unimaginable wealth. But in 2019, her life changed. She and Richard started dating not long after his split from Suzanne. Things moved fast. On August 17, 2019, Richard proposed at Tulum Resort in Mexico. He filled the beach with rose petals and posted on social media that he had found his soulmate. They got married on June 28, 2020 in Key West, Florida. The ceremony was small. COVID-19 had forced them to cancel the big wedding they had planned in Greece. But the moment was still meaningful. Katerina had left one world behind and stepped into another. From a billionaire's wife to a reality TV star's partner. It was a big shift, but one that seemed to suit her. In June 2018, something unexpected hit the custom car world. Gas Monkey Bar and Grill, a popular spot in Dallas, filed a $6 million defamation lawsuit against its own founder, Richard Rawlings. It shocked fans and followers of the Gas Monkey brand. The lawsuit accused Rawlings of trying to break away from his business partners through what they called deliberate and deceitful attempts to avoid his contracts. The legal document was 47 pages long and full of details. It described how the relationship had started falling apart as early as May 2013, even before the bar opened. One former employee, Tim Hinkhouse, wrote an email back then saying Rawlings treated construction workers terribly. He even compared him to a spoiled 13-year-old. Things got so bad that Rawlings was reportedly banned from the construction site. That moment said a lot. Tensions between him and the team were already out of control. After the bar opened later in 2013, the issues didn't stop. According to the lawsuit, Rawlings kept showing up uninvited, disrupting staff, and trying to take control of decisions. It created a toxic work environment. The situation reached a breaking point in 2015. That's when Rawlings sent a serious email to Daniel Flighty, the bar's managing member, claiming that important financial records had gone missing. Flighty quickly replied and invited Rawlings to check the records in person, but Rawlings refused. He replied saying he didn't believe the records existed at all. That accusation, one suggesting theft or fraud, would have serious consequences. On July 18, 2015, Flighty wrote back, reminding Rawlings that he had always been welcome to audit the books. That email became a key piece of evidence in court. Rawlings